and welcome back to our second edition of gardening. And today what we're going to be doing is talking about what you can use in your kitchen to start your garden. So kitchen scraps or some maybe unused fruits and vegetables, so you can use those to start a garden. So I'm going to be using a couple different things that I had in my house today to show you how to transplant some of those kitchen scraps into soil so that you can have some more fruits and vegetables. So what we're going to be starting with today is a list of the different vegetables that you can transplant and that are easy to grow from kitchen scraps. So I'm going to list those up on the board and then we'll talk about each one. Here is a list of all of the things that you can use from kitchen scraps to start your garden. So first we have green onions. They are super easy to transplant into your garden. All you need is the little end of the green onion with the roots on it. I'm going to show you how to do that today. We also have celery, romaine lettuce, garlic, ginger, potatoes, either sweet potatoes or normal potatoes. I do have a potato that I'll show you how to cut up and place in your garden as well. We also have herbs. I'm going to have some cilantro here to show you how to transplant that as well. You also have root crops such as carrots or parsnips, something that grows in the ground, just like our potatoes. We also have cabbage and onions. So onions are also super easy to transplant. I will show you how to do that today as well. So the first one I'm going to show you today are green onions. Mine have already been growing for a while, so you can see that they're quite tall on the top. But basically for green onions, super easy. Really, it's hard to mess up green onions. They grow like crazy. So this is a great first one to start with, just to give yourself a boost to know that you can do it. But what we're going to do with our green onions, as you can see, I've had them in just a shallow glass of water. You don't want to submerge them completely, but just a small glass of water if you have like a little mason jar like this, or if you just have a little cup that you can put them in, or even just a shallow little dish works as well. And what you're going to want to do with your green onions is, again, I've been letting mine grow for a while, and they will grow right in the water. You don't really even have to transplant them. They will eventually rot because there's no soil, but if you want to get a couple harvests off your green onion and you don't have soil, just place them in a cup. They'll grow a little crazy for a while. You can snip off the green ends and then they'll regrow. So you can do that about 2-3 times before they start to kind of rot. Plus you want to make sure that you are changing the water because the water gets kind of murky and brown, so changing the water helps you with that as well. So what you're going to want to do is cut off the green part, so right here where it starts growing. And again, you can eat this part, so you can top it onto some of your dishes, like we did with our scalloped or au gratin potatoes. You can put them pretty much in any dish, and it just gives you like an onion taste without the actual onions. That's why they're called green onions. They're in the onion family. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this part. You can see the roots have gotten really long because I've had them in water for a little bit. And what you're going to do is take this part and basically just bury the roots in the soil, which I'll show you in just a little bit. And then the green part will continue to grow. Super easy. So basically we're just going to chop the green part off here. And that's the part that you can eat. You can eat the white part, only it's a little bit bitter. Plus it makes for a little start to your plant. So we are going to go out to the greenhouse in just a little bit and I'll transplant these into some soil. The next one we're going to take a look at today is we'll go from green onion to onion. So what you want to do with your onion, and you can do this with pretty much any type of onion, is you're going to have your whole onion, right? And you've got the top part that kind of twists up a little bit, and then you've got the bottom that has roots on it. So basically what you want to do is keep the root part. You can use the top, and you only want a little bit of the actual onion on your roots. And what you're going to want to do is have a cup of water. You're going to place your onion in that shallow cup of water, cut side up, so the side that you cut off, you're going to want that side up, and the roots will start to grow from the bottom. And once you've got a good root system, then you can plant that in the ground, whole thing. You just plant it in the ground, it will start to grow roots, and eventually you will get an onion out of it. The next one that we're going to do today, my cilantro is looking kind of sad because it's been a little bit. Right? It's back when I used it for salsa and guacamole, so some of it is not usable anymore, but we can probably find a couple pieces in here that I can use for this project here. So what you want to do is pick one that the leaves aren't too wilted, so we can use this one, and there's probably one or two more in here that we can use. But what you're going to want to do is grab a ruler, right? Or you can estimate if you think you've got your inches down. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make it only 4 inches long. So you're going to want to make a cut. So this one's about 4 inches. And you're going to want to just put the stem part in warm water. So I'd have to change this water out, which I can do. And you're going to stick this in warm water, and you're going to put it in a place that's really sunny. You don't want direct sunlight, just like a room that's really sunny. So you don't have to put it in the window, but a place that gets some sunlight. And this will eventually start to grow roots, and once you have a root system established, then you can actually transplant your herbs, this is cilantro, into a pot of soil. So this one's pretty easy with cilantro, basil, parsley. Herbs grow fairly well, so it may take a couple times to get a root system, but as soon as you get a root system, they'll grow like crazy, like your green onion over here. So remember though, you can't just put this in the soil, you have to wait until you get a root system established, and then you can transplant. So you might have to have it in the water for a little bit. Make sure you change the water. You can see this one, I filled it 2 days ago and it's still getting murky. So you're going to have to change it a couple times, but it'll be worth it in the end. The last thing I have today are potatoes. And potatoes are, again, super simple. So I've kind of started with the easiest ones. I'll tell you a little bit about the ones on the board as well, just so you know how to do it. I didn't have all of them in my kitchen, and you probably don't either, and that's okay. You can start with a couple different things, and if it works out, then you can do some more. But potatoes are really easy. So with potatoes, you want to look for the eye of the potato. So the eye is basically where you see the little, basically like stubs of the root system that was going on. And obviously that was cut down. But I would say if you leave a potato in the sunlight, or someplace that's not dark, usually they tell you when you bring home potatoes, you gotta stick them in your cupboard so that it's dark so they don't grow, these little eyes. But if you stick them in the sun or leave them on top of your refrigerator, I've done this before, forget about them, and you look at them the next day and there's all of these sprouts growing out of your potatoes, and that's from the eye of the potato. So what you can do is you can, one, just plant your potato in the ground. That's probably the easiest way. Same with sweet potatoes. You can basically just stick it in the ground and it'll grow. Again, it may not, all right? You have to make sure that you realize that it is kind of like an experiment. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And this is especially true if you happen to not buy organic. I don't buy organic. But if you kind of pick something that's not organic, sometimes they actually make it so that they don't sprout. So if you buy organic, usually it's, it's supposed to be natural. So they are hoping that you're going to put some of these things in your garden or use them again. But with non-organic, sometimes they are modified so that they do not sprout again. And that way they kind of stay in the store a little bit longer. Like potatoes, right? You don't want your potatoes sprouting in the middle of the store, or people won't buy them because they look kind of crazy when they sprout. But with our potato, if you want more than one potato plant, basically what you want to do is every eye that you see can basically be a plant. So if you want to cut up your potato, again, this is a really small potato, so this one can probably go right in the ground. But if you want a couple, or to try the experiment to make sure you get at least one, you want to make sure that when you cut the potato into pieces, that each piece has a little eye. And I'll take a picture of this so you can see it up close, but all these little eyes can be potential plants. So if you're going to cut it up to make more, you want to make sure your piece has an eye on it, okay? So I will show you the eyes. I'll take a picture so you can see them. But again, if you want to just leave your potato in the sun for a week or so, don't hide it in the cupboard, then you'll be able to definitely see where all of the eyes are. And they'll start to grow all squiggly out, and you'll start to see green if you let them sit long enough. And you can still technically use them. You just have to peel off the sprouts. But I'm gonna show you the eyes, and then we'll get started in planting some of these different things in our greenhouse. Again, some of them still have to sit a little bit longer, like our cilantro has to grow some roots. But our potato can technically go in the ground, our onion should be good, and our green onions should be able to go into the greenhouse. I'll also show you some progress. We have 2 little sprouts in our greenhouse, which is super exciting, and we should start to see more within the next week. So the next gardening video, I will make sure that I update you on all of the different things that are growing in the greenhouse. As promised, instead of taking a picture, I'm going to show you a video. So each one of these little points here is an eye. And here's another one over here. There's one over here, one over here, and one over here. There's actually a couple in there. So make sure that if you do cut it up, you want to make sure you have one of these on each piece of your potato. Also, if you're going to cut it up, you want to make sure that you let it dry for 1 to 2 days, just to make sure you don't get a rotten potato in there, in your soil. You want to make sure that you cut it up and then let it dry for 1 to 2 days. We are out in the greenhouse now. I have all of my scraps here. And before I start, I want to show you the 2 little sprouts that we have. So there's one poking through right there. So that's our peas. Super exciting. You can see another one right over there too. So they are poking through, starting to grow. And then if we move over here, we have a tiny little sprout in our marigolds. So one tiny little sprout, so soon we will see some flowers, which is really exciting. None of the other buckets have any little sprouts yet, but they all grow at their time, so we will make sure to check back in on those. And I'm going to water all of the plants today, and then we will start our transplanting. First, we're going to do our potato and our onion. So I have the potato here, and basically we're just going to stick the potato all the way down and cover him up. And we may have to move the potato to a larger container once it starts growing, but for right now we're going to leave the potato in the smaller container till it grows some roots, and we'll check on it in a little bit. So making sure that it's all covered up here. And then we're going to move on for our onion. So just our regular onion, I'm going to grab it over here. So it's got a root system, so we're going to try and develop that root system a little bit more. You can see their roots are growing on the bottom. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with our potato. And we're just going to bury the onion. And again, we may have to move it to a larger container once the root system develops a little bit more. So there's our onion, and then we're going to move over this way, and I have a place for our green onions. So again, green onions are pretty simple. They just need some dirt to grow. So I'm just going to make little holes for them, for the root system, and cover them up just like so. So I'm going to do that with the rest of them, and then I'm going to make sure everything is watered, and we'll move on to the other scrap vegetables. Before I sign off today, if you have some of those other vegetables that I mentioned on the board, I'm going to tell you how to transplant them. So I'm just going to be looking to make sure that I get all of the information right, because it is a lot of information. So if you are ever confused about anything, make sure you visit a gardening website. Farmer's Almanac has some great tips on farming. Usually your cooperative extension, whatever you have here in Massachusetts, you could always visit that website as well. Or just, if you go onto Google, I'm sure there's a lot of tips and tricks from gardeners that would be able to help you out as well. So we've done the green onion, that's out in our greenhouse. For the celery, you're going to want to cut 2 inches from the bottom, so where the roots are, right, the leafy part on the top. All the stalk you could eat, but for 2 inches from the top where the roots are, you're going to want to cut there, and then you're going to want to place that in a shallow dish of water, just like our other ones. And you want to make sure you do not submerge the whole thing. You just want to get the little roots at the bottom, just a little bit of water. Again, make sure you keep changing it, or it's going to start to rot. You want to make sure that the roots grow, so you'll see little roots starting to grow from the bottom, and after about a week or so, you can plant them in this soil. So just like we were doing out there with the green onions, once you see the roots, put them in the ground. Alright, so our next one, it was romaine lettuce. That's another one that's very easy. Unfortunately, I didn't have any romaine lettuce at home, but if you have some extra stalks of romaine lettuce left over, that's a good one to start with as well, because they grow very quickly, just like green onions. So you want to leave a few inches at the base, just like the celery, so 2 inches, 2 to 3 inches, and then you're going to place it in a shallow dish of water, and then once you see the roots, you can plant it in the soil. So you'll start to see a little bit of growth on the top too, so you'll see some little leaves coming out of basically the middle of your little cut piece of romaine. And once you see the leaves starting to grow, you should see some roots at the bottom, and then you're good to put it in soil. Or you can just leave it in shallow water if you want. Just make sure you keep changing out the water, or you will start to see your romaine lettuce rot. Garlic. Garlic's one of those interesting ones. You'd think that you just take the whole bulb of garlic and just plant it in the ground, but the best way to do it is to take 1 garlic clove, so just a little piece of that garlic bulb that you buy at the store, so the inside, and it's just a little piece. It kind of looks like a little orange slice, basically, like the little mandarin oranges. And what you want to do is you want to basically plant this. You can plant this right in the ground. You want the root side down, so that little curve goes down, and the tapered ends, so that pointy ends, go up top, and those are going to grow your little sprouts. And you'll know it's ready when you start to see the tops turn yellow. So once you get sprouts and the tops turn yellow and start to kind of wilt over, you know that your garlic is ready. The next one was ginger. Ginger, again, is super easy. It's basically the ginger root that you're buying at the store. So if you have a little bit left over, you can either freeze it and use it later, or you can start your own ginger plant. So what you do is you want to put the root in potting soil that's really wet, and then you want to make sure that the newest buds, so the buds that are kind of up a little bit, are facing up. So you want to face them up. And this is really an indoors plant, so if you're going to do this, you don't really want to plant it outside, because it is a tropical plant. So you want to make sure that you are keeping it inside where it's warm, because outside it's not going to fare so well. But the green shoots will start to come up, and the roots will spread, and you can dig it up, use it again, and then whatever you don't use, you can replant in the ground. So that's a good one if you have some space in your house. The one that we've already done was potato, but I want to mention for sweet potatoes, I love sweet potatoes. So they're easy too. You can either, like we did out there, plant the whole potato. If you have an extra one, just plant it in the ground. Or if you want more than one, you can cut it in half and suspend using toothpicks in the water. So have you ever seen some of those things where they tell you can plant avocados and they have the seed and it has toothpicks all around it? That's basically what you're doing for your sweet potato. You don't want to submerge it in the water. You just want the very end of it to be in the water. And when the roots come out, then when they sprout, they have to be about 4 inches. You can twist them off and place them in a container of water. And then when they grow another inch, you can plant them in the soil. So this one's fairly easy. Again, if you want to just stick the whole potato in the ground, that works. Or you can wait for the roots to sprout. And once they reach about 4 inches, twist them off, put them in water, let them grow another inch, and then you can plant them. And they should come up with some sweet potatoes. Again, this is kind of like an experiment, so some things may work and some things may not. I showed you how to do cilantro. Basically with any other herb, it's the same way. You got to make sure that you cut the stem a little bit so that it can regrow, and place it in water out of the sunlight. So you want it to get a little sun, but you don't want it to be in direct sunlight. And then once the roots form, you can plant them. So I'll be planting my cilantro once I start to see some roots form. And then with root crops, this one's a little tricky. So you're not regrowing the actual root, you're regrowing the leafy parts. But especially with carrots, you can cut the leafy parts off and add them into salad or smoothies. That's where all of the good stuff is, all of the vitamins and minerals and all of that good stuff that you need. So this one's a little tricky. So again, this might not work, but you may find that you can do this. But you're going to want to cut the, let's say carrot, you want to leave like 1 inch of the carrot on the leafy part on the top, on its leaves. And then what you're going to want to do is place that in shallow water, but do not submerge, just like kind of everything else that we've talked about. And then you're going to want to wait for the roots to grow, or wait for the new leafy greens on the top to start growing, and then you can transplant. And this works for, it says beets, turnips, carrots, or parsnips. So I have not tried this method myself, so I can't kind of give you an estimate on how long that takes or if it works. But try it. It's an experiment. It's fun. You were going to throw this stuff away anyways. You might as well do a fun experiment with it. And then the last one was the onions, which I showed you how to do. So again, you're going to want to cut a 1-inch piece off the root end of the onion. So just that tiny little piece that I showed you. Put it in a shallow bowl of water. Make sure you keep changing the water. And when you see those new roots start to form, you can put it in the soil like we did outside in our greenhouse. Also, what you can do if you don't have scraps left over, but you have tomatoes or peppers, you can use the seeds. So if you have extra little bit of tomato, or a little, when you de-seed the peppers that you're going to use for your meal, what you can do is you can save those seeds. You're going to want to rinse them off, but then put them somewhere to dry. And then once they are fully dried, you can then plant them in the soil. Again, this is kind of like an experiment, so you may get some sprouts, you may not. But this is just a fun way. If you can't get to the store, this is a way that you can take those seeds that you already have from the grocery store and plant them. So if you don't want to go buy seeds, this is an easy way to try and experiment and see if you can grow your own plants. But tomatoes are fairly easy if you want to start with those. Peppers can be a little finicky, and you would definitely want to start them inside until it gets warmer. But once it gets super warm outside and it's not frosty at night, then you can plant those outside as well. Just like we're doing in our greenhouse that we talked about last week, the peppers and the tomatoes have to be inside for just a little bit until around the middle of May, when we start to see those colder nights go away and it starts to warm up the soil a little bit more. So that's all I have for today. I hope you had fun using some of the kitchen scraps to start our garden. But next time I'm going to try and plant some more seeds outside. I'll see if I have some room in the greenhouse. But we'll also check on the progress of our seeds and make sure that they have all the things that need to grow. So thank you for joining me for our new gardening hour. I hope you had fun today and learned a little bit. I hope to see you next time for our next video. Bye everybody. Make sure you comment below with pictures if you've tried any of these different transplant techniques. Please make sure that you tell me also what kind of plants you want to see in the greenhouse, and I'll try and make it happen. Also tell me why you think it's important to use leftovers to try and make your new garden. Why do you think that's an important task for you to do?